I'm Wenzel Jones.
And I'm Melanie Keller.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending August 22nd, 2020. The Trump administration was on the wrong side of the law involving transgender people again this week. One day before a rule allowing healthcare providers and insurance companies to discriminate against transgender patients was set to take effect, it was blocked by Brooklyn-based U.S. District Judge Frederick Block. The Health and Human Services Department had tried to overturn provisions of President Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act that banned bias based on gender identity. On August 17th, Judge Block cited the recent Supreme Court rule banning anti-LGBTQ workplace discrimination. He wrote that, "It seems a sensible thing to reflect on the decision's impact." Since the Health and Human Services Department has been unwilling to take that path voluntarily, the court now imposes it. The ruling granted a request from the Human Rights Campaign on behalf of two transgender plaintiffs for a preliminary injunction to prevent the new Trump rule from taking effect until its constitutionality is decided.
Another anti-trans law was blocked by another U.S. federal judge also on August 17th, this one in the state of Idaho. It prohibited transgender high school and college girls and women from participating in women's athletic competitions. Idaho Chief U.S. District Court Judge David C. Nye pointed out that the International Olympic Committee and the U.S. National Collegiate Athletic Association both, as he wrote, allow transgender women to participate in female sports teams once specific criteria are met. Ironically, Nye was appointed by President Trump in 2017. The American Civil Liberties Union filed suit in April challenging the Idaho law. Nye's temporary injunction prevents it from taking effect until a full trial can be held. According to Yahoo Sports, lawmakers in Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, and Tennessee have recently considered similar legislation. ACLU LGBT and HIV Project senior staff attorney Gabriel Arculas warned that if politicians in other states attacked transgender youth, they will face similar challenges.
LGBTQ parents are also under attack by the Trump administration. The U.S. State Department is appealing a federal court decision that a married gay couple's baby born via surrogate in Canada is a U.S. citizen. U.S. District Judge Theodore D. Chuang ruled in June that Roe and Adiel Kaviti's daughter, Kesem, is automatically a U.S. citizen by virtue of her dad's legal marriage, just as she would be if her parents were heterosexual. The Kavitis are Israeli transplants who are now both U.S. citizens living in Chevy Chase, Maryland. The State Department appealed the ruling in the Richmond, Virginia-based 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on August 13th. The queer advocacy group Lambda Legal represents the Kavitis. They also represent Derek Mize and Jonathan Gregg, a gay couple in Atlanta, Georgia. They sued the State Department after it refused to recognize the U.S. citizenship of their daughter, Simone Mize Gregg, who was born via a surrogate in England. The law seems pretty clear. Section 301C of the Immigration and Nationality Act states that a baby born abroad to married parents is a U.S. citizen at birth when both parents are U.S. citizens and one of them has resided in the United States at any point prior to the baby's birth. Both couples meet those criteria. The Trump administration apparently does not want to recognize their marriages as legitimate. That flies in the face of the U.S. Supreme Court's 2015 marriage equality ruling.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has scheduled oral arguments for November 4th in a case involving religiously affiliated adoption and fostering agencies that get taxpayer funding. It tests whether or not such organizations can reject applications from otherwise qualified same-gender couples. The Trump administration filed a legal brief in June siding with Philadelphia's Catholic Social Services. That agency challenged the city's anti-bias ordinance, which forced them to either accept same-gender applicants or lose city funding.
Even when he may think he's doing the right thing, President Donald Trump still has a tough time. Trump announced a formal presidential pardon for Susan B. Anthony this week. The famous lesbian suffragist was arrested in 1872 and fined $100 for voting illegally. Outraged, and insisting that the Constitution already gave her that right, she declared, "I shall never pay $1 of your unjust penalty." And she never did. While Anthony worked to get pardons for other arrested suffragists, she saw her record as a badge of honor. She pointedly rejected any suggestion of a pardon for herself during her lifetime. Trump issued the pardon during the week's observance of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which secured the right to vote for white women. His move was criticized as more of a lame effort to curry favor with female voters than to honor Anthony. A statement from the National Susan B. Anthony Museum and House in Rochester, New York, urged Trump to rescind the pardon and instead enforce and expand 1965's landmark Voting Rights Act and to speak out against any form of voter suppression. Trump is instead sounding false alarms about voter fraud, and the Republican-controlled Senate has declined to consider voting rights protections.
In related news, the Gay Log Cabin Republicans group has once again lauded Donald Trump for his pro-LGBTQ+ record, apparently unconcerned that he lacks one. Board Chairman Robert Cabell wrote in an op-ed for USA Today, seriously, that Trump Republicans have advanced the rights of LGBTQ people while Democrats have ignored them. Trump tweeted that the endorsement was, "My great honor." As is his habit, he defied reality by claiming to be the most pro-gay president in American history.
2 Uganda government officials have been criminally charged with torture and degrading, inhumane treatment of 20 young LGBTQ people. Supporters say their homeless shelter outside Kampala was selectively targeted for a raid in March. The youths were charged with violating COVID-19 lockdown rules limiting public gatherings. They were held for weeks without access to legal counsel or the ability to apply for bail. Some of the detainees are HIV positive and were denied needed medications. Thanks to local activism and pressure from a number of international human rights groups, all 20 detainees were finally released without charge after 50 days in squalid conditions. The Ugandan government ordered each to be compensated the equivalent of more than $1,300. The queer-supportive NGO, Human Rights Awareness and Promotions Forum, initiated civil proceedings after officials refused to file criminal charges. The civil case targets the state, the local town councilman who launched the raid and led the physical abuse, and a high-ranking prison official. Town Councilman Haj Abdul Kiyimba is seen in photos right after the raid whipping some of the detainees. He and prison officer Philemon Waniala will appear in court on September 23rd.
Finally, even as leading Putin opponent Alexei Navalny lay in a coma after probably being poisoned, a well-known Russian performance artist who survived his opposition to the regime has floated the symbol of LGBTQ pride over Moscow. The artist was the mayor of the northern Russian city of Arkhangelsk until he announced that he intended to challenge Putin for the presidency in 2007. He was, of course, arrested, charged with abuse of office, and given a 3-year probationary sentence. He has since gained renown as a modern artist and gallery owner. Dozens of helium balloons hoisted his giant rainbow flag from Moscow's Maheshnia Square and floated it towards the Kremlin, no doubt infuriating the occupants. The artist told the opposition news outlet Novoya Gazeta that he was responding to his government's criticism of a number of foreign embassies in Moscow for flying the rainbow flag during June Pride Month, including the embassies of Canada, the UK, and the US. That's considered to be a violation of the law against gay propaganda that Putin pushed through in 2013. The artist wanted to leave no doubt about who deserved credit for flying the rainbow. Alexander Donskoy attached his name to a large banner along the bottom of the flag.
That's NewsWrap, Global Queer News with Attitude, for the week ending August 22nd, 2020. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is recording remotely during the COVID-19 emergency, but is still being written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian D. Shazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out Radio YouTube channel. For This Way Out, I'm Melanie Keller. Stay healthy.
And I'm Wenzel Jones. Stay safe.